What's up, YouTubers? It's me, Johnny. Sunday night. Markets have opened, or at least futures have. Brent is at 124.38. Gold's at, I think, 19.92. Silver's at $26. Oh, I said Brent. I meant light sweet crude in Texas is at 124. Brent's at 137. I think it's come down, though, from the last time I looked. Anyways, the futures are down almost 2% on NASDAQ. Excuse me, on S&P 500, like 1.5 to 2%. I think the Russell's down about 2%. I might be able to, no, I can't check right now. Anyways, it was an interesting open, if you want to call it that. I got on Twitter, everyone's tweeting 137 for Brent, 120. I see now 124.80. No, 124.38 for Texas oil. So there's two schools of opinion. If oil gets to 124, there's going to be a lot of demand destruction, and I think that's true. Then there's also the school of thought that the opposite is going to happen. Oil is going to have to be bought somewhere, or people are going to not be able to eat and freeze to death, or not heat themselves or cool themselves because it's almost winter's kind of over. Central Europe, it's still pretty cold, but there seems to be the school of thought that's different than mine that says there won't be demand destruction, that people will keep paying these prices. I walked by the gas station. I paid 3 or 4 days ago, it was $4. Then the next day I paid $4.37. Today it's $4.67, I think. I see online there's stations selling gas in the U.S. for $5 to $6 a gallon. And I want to say Denmark, but I might be off. I might be way off. I saw on the Twitterverse, I think it's either Denmark or the Netherlands, but I think it's Denmark. Gas is at $11 a gallon. I think they sell it in liters, but if you work it all out, it's $11 a gallon. The fact that silver is over $24 an ounce and we're probably headed into recession is very, very fascinating. And I hear nickel prices are going to, well, I don't know if futures prices open up for wheat. I didn't really look. Those are things I don't trade, so I don't know what time they open up. If they all open up at the same time as oil, then I presume wheat, corn, soy, wheat, corn, soy, and probably barley is going to be shooting up through the roof, especially barley. Assuming we don't go into a recession, which I don't assume, I assume we are, the demand for those things are going to go up and the prices are going to go up. But as prices shoot up too high, I presume a lot of people aren't going to be buying anything and we're going to be in a recession. But the problem with my view is if we're not allowed, if the West is not allowed to buy Russian oil and gas, and then we're going to buy it from, I hear on the news feeds, we're going to buy it from Iran and Venezuela, and you can't really buy oil. There's a certain amount of oil you could buy in Venezuela, but the oil fields are so crappy right now. It would take 1 year to 2 years worth of investment to increase or get any kind of production out of Venezuela. Again, that's just my opinion. I don't know about Iran. I don't know, like our allies, Saudi and some of those other allies, I don't think they really feel they're incentivized to send oil to the West. And that's another point. The United States and the EU has pissed off our allies, and we've pissed off people who aren't our allies. It's not in anyone's favor, really, to help come and bail out the Western people, or much less the governments. Anyways, I was going to comment more on all the nonsense going on in... I'll just comment a little bit more. Already now, yesterday, I'm reading articles on all the Russians and Ukrainians heading into Europe as immigrants, legal or not. I'm hearing stories about immigrants heading into the U.S., Russian and Ukrainians through Mexico. That's already started. It's been happening for a couple months now, but now the media is starting to talk about it. So now you have Middle Eastern immigrants or Afghanis and anything from the Middle East. You have African immigrants going to Europe and the Middle East going into Europe. In the Americas, you have Venezuelans, Haitians, Central Americans, and some South Americans going into the United States. And now you're having more and more Middle Eastern people flying over here, usually through Brazil or Mexico. And now it's going to be Russians and Ukrainians. I expect in the next few days, Mexico is going to announce that they're not going to they'll let Ukrainians fly in without a visa, but they won't let Russians. We'll have to see how it goes. But I want to see how the West deals with millions, because I've already heard that 1 million people have left Ukraine already. And there's conflicting stories that say if you're a man and you're between 18 and 65, they won't let you leave. And then there's other stories that say you will. And then there's stories about people, if you have visible wealth on you, they liquidate your wealth when you come across the border, which doesn't surprise me in the least. Ukraine just started out handing out guns like crazy, and all kinds of militia groups are grabbing them up, and some are using them for the fight, some are using them to rob their fellow citizens or kidnap them. This is what I don't like about all this. This is when all hell breaks loose. This is one of the bigger reasons why some personal friends of mine ask me why I don't want to live in Eastern Europe, because of this kind of bullshit. Once you become a target, you become a target. And I can't even imagine having $5,000 or $10,000 or $20,000 worth of gold coins trying to come across that border over there. It just would probably end badly. It would be the same in Afghanistan. I mean, it just is what it is. But we have all these countries that are pissed off at us for our policies, and now we're going to get their immigrants, legal or not. And I just want to make a short comment. When I came back to the States, I was talking to one of my relatives about all the Venezuelans in Lima and what a problem that was. And he was very sophisticated and understood all these things that happened. And what I said to him was, one of the problems of the Venezuelans coming in Lima is that they quite literally suck up all the resources there. I mean, they quite literally drink the water that's in short supply there. They quite literally use up all the medical facilities that's in short supply that was promised to the Peruvians who pay tax. I'm not against anyone getting free medical care, especially in an emergency situation. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the Venezuelans came in, used up a lot of the resources there, and they've never paid tax into that system, which creates resentment with the people of Lima, or Peru. I lived in Lima, but the whole Peru. But mainly, it was my understanding 400,000 Venezuelans just lived in Lima. Imagine all the water they sucked up, all the food and resources they sucked up. And I'm not suggesting they did anything wrong. It's just there's a limited supply of all that, and when they came in, the prices of that stuff went through the roof, at least for good quality. Well, all that's going to happen in these other countries too. And you could just imagine with all the Africans and Middle Easterners going into Europe, with the Central Americans and South Americans, and small amounts of Middle Easterners and Africans coming up through Mexico. And now we're going to have Ukrainians and Russians coming up. There's already news articles on that. They're coming up through Mexico already. What's the U.S. going to do? Reject them? And then what are they going to do in Mexico? Sit in Mexico? They're probably not going to be flown back to the Ukraine. Or already the Mexican president said the Ukrainians are welcome, just not the Russians. But the Russians are coming whether the Mexican president wants them there or not. So now you as a tourist or a resident there in Mexico, you're going to have to compete with all those immigrants coming in. So I keep saying, if you want to live there, get there now and snap up a rental. It is what it is. All this stuff is going to cause a mass migration from the developing world to the first world. And then people in the first world who are tired of taxes and regulations are going to migrate to the developing world to get out of that. So it's kind of a weird dynamic. Anyways, I want to sound all ominous and act like I know what's going to happen, but I don't. Like, just 6 weeks ago, I would have told you gold's going to 25 to 3,500 an ounce, no problem. I really believe that. And anyone who said 5 or 10,000, I would say, they always say that and it never happens. Now I'm starting to think it could be possible gold goes to 5 or 10,000 if this thing doesn't settle down. Suffice it to say, if a nuclear bomb drops on your head, your gold won't do you any good. You'll be atomized just like your gold. But I'm just saying, if you're in the part of the world where this won't affect you, and you get your gold now and you can sell it and buy it and protect it easily, you'll have a nice little profit there. I said earlier I bought some Russian shares. I don't know how that's going to turn out from what I can tell. If I'm able to add more, because I buy my stuff through a U.S. broker, at least at this stage, I might not be able to buy and sell it. I bought on Charles Schwab. A lot of my friends bought on Charles Schwab. And it used to, you could settle your trade in one day. Now it's taking 5 days to settle a Russian trade. And it might get to the point where you can't settle anymore. And the U.S. government says to liquidate all Americans' shares of anything related to Russia. And you'll just have to get liquidated at the low prices. You bought high, they'll liquidate it low. Now, in my case, it wasn't anything that'll affect my center of living, but at least if they let us hold these positions long term from the from the dividends and from the potential capital appreciation of these assets and all of that, the currency. But if this war drags on, probably all that will go into the wind. But if you can hold the position a couple of years, and there's no more capital controls. That's another thing. It's hard to get really good information about capital controls in Russia, but before they're letting people take $10,000 out a day, now I hear it's $5,000. It may not be a day, and they're forcing Russians to liquidate their dollar positions into rubles, which is basically worthless. This is what's so frustrating. No matter where you live in the world now, there's really no safe place you can keep your money. Whether your passport's a U.S. passport, a Russian passport, a Ukrainian passport, or a Canadian passport, if the U.S. government or the EU doesn't like what the citizens of those countries do, they can make your life miserable. This is what's frustrating. I said this in my videos years ago, that the U.S. government and the EU was putting pressure on Latin American countries to make it harder and harder for us to settle into other countries. Mainly because, it's my opinion, because the tax cows are leaving. Mexico said today, or maybe a few days ago, the president, AMLO, he welcomes Ukrainians but not Russians. Malta said they used to welcome Russians and Belarusians, but now they don't. So there's more and more countries are saying, if you're Russian and you want to legally come to our country, no, you can't. And that's why I told some of my smaller circle of friends, if you want to travel and live a PT type lifestyle, you're going to have to do it in certain regions. My opinion is probably only going to be Asia and maybe parts of Africa and Latin America. And because of the way shit's going down, maybe only Latin America if you want more safety. You're probably chuckling saying safety. Yeah, because things could really start popping off in Africa, or like places you never think of, like Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka's melting down. They're not going to be able to get their fertilizers from like Russia and these other places. And they were having problems before this happened. There's all these counter effects we don't think about that take a while to rip through the economies of countries we never really think about. And so that's going to create a lot of uncertainty. And there's going to be more immigration from some of these other countries we don't think about. I'm starting to read how Russia, China, and India are going to start aligning. Just 2 weeks before, India was said to be on our side or going to align with the West. So now I have no idea what's going to happen. I don't. Like, it's hard for me to imagine India aligning with China and Russia, but I don't know. That's what I'm hearing. The other thing is, India is such a, I'm going to use adult language, such a clusterfuck that I don't know why China would want them as an ally. I don't know why they're our allies to begin with. But anyways, that's just my opinion on India. But I also heard, I think it's the 6th, I heard in the news on March 11th, I think, anyone in Russia, there won't be any more international flights after the 11th. You won't be able to get out of Russia. I don't know the situation for foreigners in Ukraine, but if you happen to be in those countries and you want to leave, my understanding is you should have been out a couple weeks ago, but now you're probably stuck there, maybe. International flights, I heard, are closing down March 11th for Russia. And even if you can afford it, or you can get on, well, if you can afford it and get on a flight, that's fine, but I can see how people could be held hostage there against their will. That's all I'm going to say. I don't know. I'm hearing that already now, so I don't know. But that's why I don't care to live in that part of the world, because things get chaotic fast. And like I've been saying in my last few videos, things are getting way chaotic in the West and also in the East faster than I would have thought. I thought we were going to see $2,500 gold and $3,500 gold more over a longer time period, because I thought inflation is going to kind of come back down and then there's going to be another bailout and go back up. Now I think with what's happening, inflation may not come down at all, but just a little bit. And there's going to be, I don't know, I'm already hearing talk, or I'm seeing clues from the government that there's going to be some kind of bailout to help with all this pain and suffering of high oil prices. And as usual, I doubt working class people get much of it, but it's going to cause asset prices to shoot up. Now, I just looked at markets right now, the futures, and they're open up 1.5 to 2% lower. Oil's up 7.5%. Gold's up, I don't know what the percentage is, up 20 some bucks. It's almost at $2,000 an ounce. It's like $8 from 2000. Silver is at 26. I think Friday it closed at 24.90. It's up about $1 then. I was just thinking the last week, silver, as long as silver doesn't go below 24 bucks an ounce, I was just thinking if it keeps going up, which is surprising me because I think we're going into a recession. And usually when you go into a recession, silver just goes down a lot. But with this all happening, silver at 26, I expect silver to go to 30, 35. And normally I would say, yeah, then it's going to sell off. But maybe we'll go to $49 or $50, kind of the old high. Still, it's hard for me to believe that, but 30 bucks, 35 bucks, I could see that now. Especially if nickel, copper take off. And it looks like nickel and copper are going to take off. And again, I want to stress, it seems like we're going to go into recession, and this should be going the opposite way. But since we're not going the opposite way, then what we'll have is an inflationary recession, like I guess the 70s. I was a kid when that happened. I don't remember anything about it, but maybe an inflationary recessions that will be more painful because we have all these luxuries in these first world countries that we're used to that we didn't even have in the 70s. I mean, what about, we need chips from China and Taiwan, and if China wants to cut off Taiwan, they can. We need, what's it called, rare earths. They're from China mostly, and there's some in Afghanistan, but I don't think they're being produced. And then there's some in like Argentina and Bolivia, but I don't think there's a lot of rare earths, or they can scale up that production. Even if they could, would we buy it or would they sell it to us? I don't know, but a lot of these things we have are like luxuries now, and I'm trying to imagine all these young people without all their toys and stuff. And as of right now, and I can only speak to the United States, there's a lot of young people who don't want to work, so they're not doing. There's a lot of jobs on offer that they're not willing to do, and it's just fascinating to me. I'm not being judgmental. I'm just fascinated by it all. And if there's hardship, I wonder how they're going to deal with escalating prices of Apple products and maybe shortage. I think there's going to be shortages of certain Apple products. Some of the other the really expensive stuff, it'll still be there, but it'll be really, really expensive, even compared to now. I'm not an Apple guy, but I know some people who spend $20,000, $30,000 on Apple products, and they're telling me the high-end stuff, it's still here. You can still get it. It's just going up in price. But I'm going to be interested to see how the whole world handles it, especially kind of Americans who are very what's the word? Complacent, and kind of very complacent and kind of I can't think of the word. Used to getting what they want without any troubles. Now, hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully when I get up, the Western world is going to announce some magical words and wave their magical wand and everything's going to go back to normal. I don't think that's going to happen. I think we could be at, I don't know what the old-time high for gold was. Was it 2,000? Was it even 2,000? But I think the intraday high was 2,000, but I think we're going to have an all-time high, closing high above 2,000 very shortly. And then we'll be off to 2,500 to 2,000. Normally, I would say 3,500 we'd stop and maybe get a blow-off at 4,000 or something, or maybe 5,000. But if this keeps going on, I expect wealthy people will buy gold. Other people will buy Bitcoin. I haven't seen any price action on that so far that leads me to think that's going to happen. But oh yeah, I was going to mention one more thing. Here's something that the viewers might want to consider. I mentioned this. I don't know if I mentioned this in the video, but so many months ago, Palantir, which is Peter Thiel's company, disclosed they bought a lot of physical gold. At the time, people were shocked. You know, Peter Thiel being a tech guy, why didn't he buy Bitcoin? And why is he being an idiot and buying gold? Well, if you know what Palantir does as a company, the intelligence they gather all around the world, I now figure they must have figured out there's going to be a war. They must have figured all that shit out. They must have stocked up on gold as a hedge for some reason, and this may be why it was. I don't know. It's just food for thought. So keep in mind that there's people who have intelligence way before we have it trading on this stuff. And gold is still not worthless like people say. And Bitcoin's still not at 100,000 like people thought. So you can't eat your Bitcoin and you can't eat your gold, but you can trade Bitcoin and gold for what you want if you live in a stable society. If you live in the war zone, I'd rather have Bitcoin because at least you can get out of the country and no one knows you have it. But if you're in the Western world, gold still can get you a long ways in a lot of places. Anyways, that's it for tonight. Like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment. We are living in crazy times.